Again, Hussein and welcome to YouTube channel. So in this video, we are going to be using the OpenAI models, but what I want you to keep in mind is that you don't have to pay for anything. If you want to pay for the models, you totally can, but throughout the course, we're going to be using all of the models totally for free. And by the way, I'm going to also tell you like how you're going to be using a ChatGPT 4, and also if you want to use the Dall-E 3, so you can totally do that. But now let's talk about what you will learn in this course. So in this course, we're going to be first of all starting from the ChatGPT model, and we're going to be using that for the chat completion. Then we are going to be jumping into the Dall-E, and it's going to allow us to make a realistic images. After that, we are going to be jumping into the Whisper model, and it's going to allow us to make text to speech and also speech to text. And finally, we are going to be using all of that models in JavaScript as well. So if you guys don't know what a JavaScript is, you don't have to worry about that. And finally, we have a big section on prompt engineering, and trust me, there are a lot of things that we are going to be covering throughout the course. But now let's talk about what you have to know before jumping into this course. So you just have to know the Python programming language, and if you guys don't know what a Python is, so here you can see I have a complete course on there, and this course is also going to be coming on this channel as well. So here you can see I have a lot of courses right here. And if you guys don't know what a JavaScript is, so here is the JavaScript course. So yeah, that's there. And finally, the final thing which I want to mention is that I don't have any Instagram account. Please don't follow me on Instagram because I don't have any Instagram account. Yeah, let's get into the course. Now let's talk about the OpenAI models. So OpenAI is a research company focused on artificial intelligence. They are particularly well known for their development of a large language model. So what do I mean by a large language model, or LLMs? LLM is a fancy way of saying a computer program that is really good with a language. Just like we learn a language by reading and listening a lot, these programs are also trained with a massive amount of textual data to understand and even create a human language. Okay, so this is what a LLM is. But there is also a huge misconception between the generative AI and the LLM. So what do I mean by generative AI? Generative AI is a broad term for any AI that can create new things. For example, like art, music, text, and even a code. Something which we are going to be discussing throughout the course, but you don't have to worry about that for now. So I want you to keep this sentence in mind. So it's like a big toolbox with many different creative AI tools. Okay, so this is just a basic definition of a generative AI. But now let's talk about the LLM. So these are a specific type of generative AI that focus on creating and understanding a human language. They are like a really powerful tools in a generative AI toolbox specialized for only working with the words. Okay, so yeah, that was a lot of theory, but now let me just get into the actual content. So the first thing which I want you to do is that I want you to come to this platform.openai.com, and this is the OpenAI developer platform. And throughout the course, we are going to be covering all of these topics like text generation, and we are going to be learning a lot about prompt engineering, And we're not going to be covering embeddings in this course because this is a huge topic which we're going to be learning in my LangChain course, but you don't have to worry about that for now. We're going to be covering topics like text-to-speech, image generation. We're not going to be covering a fine-tuning. We are going to be also covering like text-to-speech as well. So if you guys want me to cover a vision, I'll make a separate video on them, but throughout the course, we're not going to be also covering this topic as well. Okay, so what I want you to do is that I want you to just click on this login button right here, and here you can create your own account if you don't have already. But if you have like a Google account or maybe a Microsoft account or maybe an Apple account, so you can just click on there and you can specify there, and the rest is a history. Once you specify your credential and you successfully logged in, it's going to bring you to this kind of layout right here. Okay, so here you can see we have all of that stuff right here, but now in this case we have like this documentation, and throughout the course we are going to be covering almost all of these documentation. And I'm not going to be showing you this documentation because I like to code instead of showing you this documentation. So if you want to come to this documentation, so yeah, here it is, and you can also click on this API reference, and here you can learn more about that. Like you have to install the OpenAI, and this is how you're going to be installing there for the Node.js and so on and so forth, but you don't have to worry about that for now. Okay, so what I want you to do is that I want you to just click on this playground right here. You can select your model which you're going to be using, and by the way, we are going to be using a GPT 3.5 turbo, and you can choose whichever model that you like. The reason I'm using a ChatGPT 3.5 turbo is that this is totally free, and it's going to give you a lot of credits and also great results as well. You can also specify the temperature if you wanted to, and these are all the parameters which we are going to be covering throughout the course, but you don't have to worry about that for now. Then we have assistant. We can also compare two models, like we have a GPT 3.5 turbo, and we can also choose like, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna just choose like, I'm gonna give it the prompt of like, I don't know, maybe hello world program, and also define that. So now let me just click on this run button. So yeah, this is how you're going to be comparing two models if you wanted to. Now let me just click on this completion, and here you can also provide your own prompts and you can test all of them out by yourself. Okay, so yeah, there are a lot of things to cover, but we're not going to be covering these topics. So now let's discuss the main topic of this section, which is called the API keys. So now let me just click on the API keys right here, and here you can see I don't have any API key right now at this point. But if I wanted to generate an API key, I'm going to just click on this create a new secret, and here you can see it's going to ask me to provide some sort of a name for that. So I'll just provide like demo. You can give it any name that you like. Now let me just click on create a secret key. So now let me just click on there, and here you can see API key is now generated successfully. But what I want you to do is that I want you to just click on this copy right here. Don't forget to copy your API key. Let me just say that once again. Do not forget to copy your API key, and also don't share this API key with other. And also let me just say that once again, you will never share this API key with anyone. And that also means like whenever you are pushing your code to your GitHub repository, you will have to secure your API key so that nobody else can use that. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. And now let me just click on there. I'm going to just create a new file right here, and now inside this file I'm going to be storing my API key right here. So now a lot of people will ask me, Hussein, you already show us your API key. I can totally steal that and I can take all of your credits. And you are telling us not to share this API key with anyone. So what's the point of telling me all of that? Okay, so now I'm going to just click on this done right here, and here you can see this API key is now successfully generated right here. By the time you are watching this video, this API key will be totally deleted, which means like any website or any application is using this key will no longer have access to this API key. So now let me just create a new one because I cannot delete that right here because I only have one API key. So I'm going to have to generate another one to delete this existing one. So I'm going to just click on there, and now let me just give it the name of like demo 2 or something like that. Create a secret key, and here you can see it's going to take a bit of time. Now let me just copy there, and once I copy there, now let me just click on this done button right here. I can now totally delete this API key. So I'm going to just click on this basket icon right here, and now let me just revoke the key. Okay, and once I do, here you can see that API key is now successfully gone. And now I'm going to just replace that with this new key right here. So say bye-bye to this older one, and now let me just replace that right here with this new one. So this is how we are going to be generating our API key. But now let's talk about the usage. So now let me just click on there, and here you can see I use this API for a lot of things. So when I was making this course, I use this API for a lot of things, like for the image generation, and also I've provided a lot of prompts and for the voices and whatnot. So I only use $0.21. And whenever you create your OpenAI account, it's gonna give you $5 totally for free. Okay, so it's gonna give you $5 totally for free. And now let me just show you the pricing, and trust me, it's gonna surprise you. Okay, so now let me just go to this pricing right here. I'm showing you this, but by the time you're watching this video, this information will be totally changed. Okay, so I cannot guarantee, like, by the time you're watching this video, the pricing will be totally the same. So I want you to keep that in mind. Okay, so in this course, we're not going to be even bothering getting a ChatGPT 4 because I want to make this course accessible for everyone. So we are going to be using the free one. Here you can see if you're using a ChatGPT 4 Turbo for 1 million tokens. And by the way, you don't have to worry about the tokens for now because we're going to be discussing tokens in a really great detail, but later in this course, but not right now. Okay, so for 1 million token input, you only have to pay $10. And for 1 million tokens output, we are going to be only paying $30. If you are just using a ChatGPT 4, not a Turbo, so these are the pricing for that. So I'm not going to read through all of them, but throughout this course, we are going to be using ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. For 1 million tokens, we only have to pay $0.50. Okay, and for 1 million tokens, for the output, we are going to have to only pay $1.50. And throughout the course, you don't have to pay for anything. Why is that? Because whenever you create the OpenAI account, it will give you $5 totally for free. So yeah, what I want you to keep in mind is that you don't have to pay for anything to watch this course. And yeah, and if you're using the assistant API, so these are the pricing for that. If you're doing a fine tuning, yeah, these are a lot of prices right here. If you are using an embedding model, something which we are going to be discussing in my upcoming courses, but not right now. So these are the pricing for that. And finally, we have a base models like DaVinci 2, and we also have a Babbage right here. So these are the pricing for that. So yeah, that was the basic introduction of all of that theory. And what I want you to do is that I want you to create your own API key because we're going to be getting into the coding right now. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that for the first portion of this course, we're going to be using a Python programming language. So that also means that you're going to have to install that in your machine. If you did not install a Python in your machine, so the first thing which I want you to do is that I want you to go to this python.org and then hover your mouse over to this downloads and click on this Python 3. Whatever version it is. Okay, so I want you to download and install them. And once you do, now the next thing which you have to do is that you will also need some sort of a place where you're going to be writing your code. So I will highly recommend to install a VS Code in your machine. If you want to use other products like JetBrains IDE, or there are a lot of them out there, so if you want to use that, you are more than welcome to use that, but I will highly recommend you to use a VS Code. So once you come to this link, which is a code.vscode.com, so here is the landing page of a VS Code. So it will automatically detect your operating system, but if it didn't, you can just click on this drop down menu. You can download that for the Mac OS, for the Windows, and also for the Linux as well. So I want you to download and install that as well. So now let me make a setup for our coding journey. So I'm going to just create a folder, give it the name of like OpenAI. You can give it any name that you like. And now let me open this folder in my VS Code. So I'm going to just right click on there and open that in my VS Code. And here you can see I have this folder right here, and chances are your VS Code will not look the same like mine because I've changed a lot of stuff inside there. So now let me just create a file. I'm going to give it the name of like index.py because we're going to be working with the Python. So the first thing which you have to do is that we have to get our API key. And we already got there, so I'm going to just copy every single thing from here. Now let me just place there and comment this line out. So that's the first thing. Now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to install the OpenAI package in our machine. And how we are going to be doing that? To do that, we are going to be using pip install and then the OpenAI command, OpenAI package. So now let me just copy there, and I'm going to open my terminal right here. And now let me just run this command right here. So I already installed that, and now let me just hit enter right here. So here you can see it's going to give us like a requirement already satisfied because I already installed that in this area right here. Okay, so in your case it's going to take a bit of time to install this package in your machine. So that's there. Now let me just remove that from here. And now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to import the OpenAI. Come on, OpenAI. And now let's just import the OpenAI OpenAI constructor from here. Okay, so we just have to write this line of code. The first thing which you want to do is that we want to import something from the OpenAI package, and that something will be our OpenAI constructor. So now that we successfully import that right here, so now let me just make an instance of the. Okay, so now let me just write like OpenAI, and now let me just call that right here. And here you can see it requires a few parameters. The first thing it requires is the OpenAI key. Then it also requires the organization, the base URL, and the timeout, and so on and so forth. So we are now only interested in providing the API key. Okay, so now let me just write like API key right here inside there. So I'm going to just write like API key, and now let me provide my API key right here inside the quotes. And now let me just copy that from here once again. I don't know why I just deleted that. But now let me just place it right here. Let's just go back, and now we have to store that in some sort of a variable. So I'm going to just give it the name of like client, and you can give it any name that you like. Okay, so in my case, I'm going to just give it the name of like client, and there you have it. So now let me just print this out. So we have a client. Let me just save this file, and now let me just run that. It's going to just give us like this something, which means like, yeah, our OpenAI is now working totally correctly. Okay, so now let me just clear this out. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I'm going to just remove that from here. Let's just use our ChatGPT API. Okay, so we are going to be using the GPT 3.5 Turbo, and how we are going to be using that. So now we store the response of this OpenAI constructor inside this client variable. So I'm going to copy that, and now let me just place that right here. So if I just write a dot, and here you can see we have the API key, we have the audio, and we have a few things right here. And I'm only interested in this chat, so I'm going to just click on this chat right here. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I'm going to just write the dot once again, and here you can see we have a completion, we have the raw response, the streaming response, and we have a lot of things. We are only interested in this completion. So now let me just select there, and now finally we just have to write a dot, and we have to select this create method on this. So now let me just execute this method, and now this method requires a few parameters. So here you can see it requires the model as a string. It also requires the frequency, something which we are going to be discussing later, but not right now, and so on and so forth. So you know what, for now I'm not going to explain all of their parameters, but I'm going to just pass like 2 parameters, and I'm going to explain that in a few seconds. So now let me just provide the model, like which kind of model you want to use. So we're going to be using like GPT, and then we are going to be writing like dash 3.5, and we are going to be using the turbo. Okay, so now we just have right there. So that's going to be the model which we are going to be using for our application. Now let me provide a comma. Now the next parameter which you have to specify is the messages. Okay, so now messages will be now equals to the list, and now inside this list we are going to be passing our dictionary as a response. Okay, so don't worry about all of that stuff which I'm writing right here. Like, don't worry about the model, and also don't worry about the messages. This is going to be something which I'm going to be explaining in a few seconds, but I want you to just give me a bit of time. Okay, so now let me just provide like a role, and which kind of role that we want. We have an assistant, we have a system, and also the user. So I'm going to just specify the system in this case. Now let me just provide a comma, and now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to specify the content, and content like that. And now let me just provide my own prompt right here, like which kind of prompts we want to provide. So I'm going to just write like, what do you think 2 plus 2 is? Okay. I guess that's going to be fine. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to store this response in some sort of a variable. So I'm going to just write like a response, and now let me just store that right here. I'm going to copy that, and finally we just have to print this out. So I'm going to just write like print and response. Let me just save my file, and now let me just run my code right here. Okay, so here you can see it's going to take a bit of time, and we are now getting some sort of an error at line 5. So now let me just check this out, and yeah, turbo. Instead of turbo, we are going to be writing a turbo. So TURBO. So now let me just save my file and rerun that. And what I want to do is that I want to run them, and first of all let me just clear this out, and now let me just rerun that once again. So here you can see it's going to give us this response right here. So we have a chat completion, we have our ID, and we have a lot of stuff which we are not going to be inspecting right now. But what I want to show you is that it's going to give us this response right here. Oh my god, there we go. So here you can see we have a content, and that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So it's going to give us this response, and there you have it. Okay, so now if you want to get the specific response over there, we're going to be just writing like response. And by the way, I also changed this response right here. That was a misspelling, but now I just changed that. And now for this response, we're going to be getting the choices. Let me just show you that. And we are now getting their choices. Come on, let me just show you that. Okay, so we are now getting these choices, which you can see. You know, let me just search for the choices, which you can see right here. So we have these choices right here, and now inside these choices we are only interested in the first one, and we are going to be getting the message from there. So we are going to be just writing like the first thing, and now let me just write a message, and then finally we're going to be getting only the content. Okay, so now let me just store it in some sort of a variable like message, and now let me just copy this message from here, and now let me just place that right here, semi file, and now let me just rerun that for the final time. So it's gonna only gives us that response right here, like 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, which is super amazing. So this is how we are going to be using our ChatGPT API. But now let me just show you all of the parameters it requires. So you know what, let me just break this down for you. So before I show you the parameter, first of all I want to talk to you about something called the tokens. So when we provide a prompt to our OpenAI models, they become something called the tokens. So what in the world are tokens? Tokens are like a tiny pieces of text that OpenAI uses to understand and also process the information, and they can be individual words, part of a word, or even a special character. So that's just a basic definition of a tokens. But now let's talk about the money. And by the way, you don't have to spend any money throughout the course, but now let me just talk about it. OpenAI uses those token as the unit for billing their services, and that also means that you get charged based on a total number of token used in your request and also the response you got back. Okay, so yeah, now let me just show you that in action. So here you can see I have this tokenizer right here, and if you want to come to this same link, so you just have to write like platform.openai.com and then tokenizer, and here we're going to be passing some sort of a prompt, and our prompt will become a token. So you know what, I'm gonna just write like what do you think 2 plus 2 is? Come on, is. There we go. So here you can see our response is now becoming something called a token. So this is going to be one token, this is going to be another token, and so on and so forth. So here you can see we are now getting like this prompt which we specified right here. We used 27 characters and it generated 11 tokens out of our text. Okay, so yeah, this is how token works. And yeah, you can also choose different models like ChatGPT legacy, I mean like free legacy, and it's gonna make it like 9 tokens and 27 characters, totally the same. So that's there. But now let me just show you the pricing. Okay, so here you can see I already show you there, but now let me just show you there once again. If you're using this faster model, which is a GPT-4 Turbo, so for 1 million token, let me just zoom in a bit. By the time of recording this video, these are all the prices. But I don't know if you're watching this video in the future, like I don't know, maybe in 2025 or something like that, their prices will be totally changed. So yeah, this is going to be for the first model. Then for the second model, once again, for 1 million tokens as an input, we are going to be getting charged $30, and for the output it gives us, it's going to charge us $60. And throughout the course we are going to be using GPT 3.5 Turbo, and yeah, for 1 million tokens it's gonna only charge 50 cents. Okay, so that's not even a dollar. Okay, so yeah, for 1 million output tokens, we're going to be charged $1.50. So yeah, if you're using a assistant API or fine-tuning or embedding or some other models like DaVinci or something like that. And by the way, for the image models, it's gonna take a bit more money than the chat models right here. Okay, so you can see like for the resolutions, something which we are going to be discussing later in this course. For specific resolution of image, it's gonna charge us like different kinds of money right here. Okay, so yeah, that was the basics of tokens. And you know what, let's get into the coding. So now let's talk about a basic parameter which our model will take, and there are a lot more parameter than that, something which I'm going to be showing you throughout the course, but you don't have to worry about that for now. So the first one we have is a model, and as the name suggests that this is going to be the name of our model. Like if you want to use GPT 3.5 Turbo or GPT-4 or GPT-4 Turbo or maybe DaVinci or Babbage or something like that. Okay, so this is going to be the name of our model. Now the next one we have is a messages, and it's going to be a list of messages object, or in our case a list of dictionary. So each dictionary will require 2 fields, so the role and also the content. Okay, so the role will be the messenger. For example, if you want to use the system, user, or assistant, something which I'm going to show you that in a few seconds. So now the next one we have is a content, and content will be the actual prompt, like what do you want our model to do. Okay, so now let's just discuss the system, user, and assistant. The system role is used to set up the behavior for our assistant. For example, we can specify the personality of our assistant or instruct it to follow some sort of a specific guidelines. Now the next one we have is the users. The user role is used to provide a request or comments for assistant to respond to. And then the final one we have is assistant, and this is going to be the output which we are going to be getting from the ChatGPT or from our model. Okay, so that's that. Now let's just discuss the max tokens. So as we just learned a few seconds ago, that whenever we provide some sort of a prompt, our prompt will become a token. But in some situation, we would want to work with a lot of data. Let's suppose we build some sort of a web application, and that application uses the GPT 3.5 Turbo. So a lot of people can come to our website and they can provide like different kind of articles and different kind of things, and they can ask our model to summarize all of them. So that's going to be requiring a lot of tokens because article and PDFs are a huge thing, and we just saw that how much tokens it costs for a lot of prompts. Max token, as the name suggests, that it will set the maximum number of generated token in the chat completion. Okay, so something which I'm going to be showing you in a few seconds, but you don't have to worry about that for now. Now the next one we have is a stop, and stop specifies up to 4 sequences where the API should stop generating the tokens. Now the final one we have is a n, and it generates a specified number of chat completion choices for each input. So you know what, let me just show you all of them. So here what I want you to do is that I want you to just click on this icon right here, and once you do, then I want you to click on this API reference, and here I want you to just click on this chat. Here you can see it's going to show you all of their parameter right here. So the first one we have is a message, and it is now required, like you have to specify there. The next one we have is a model, and it is also required, and we have these few of them. If you want to learn about that, you totally can, but if you don't want to learn about that, you don't have to. Okay, so here you can see we have a maximum token, and we have a n, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you know what, let me just write some code and then you will get to know what I'm talking about. So here you can see back to our code. Okay, so now here you can see in this case, let me just zoom in a bit. In this case, we are using a GPT 3.5 Turbo, but we are not just limited to that. We can use different kind of models. So if I just click on there, then I can go ahead and go to the text generation. So we have a lot of models right here. You can use the GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, or GPT 3.5, which we are using right now, or you can also use this Babbage or DaVinci. Okay, so yeah, in this case, we are now using GPT 3.5 Turbo. Now we are telling our LLM to use this specific model. Okay, now the next one we have is a messages, and it requires a dictionary or object, whatever you want to call them. For each dictionary, we would want to provide a role, and the role can be either a system or user or assistant. So you know, I'm gonna just stick to the system for now, and I'm gonna just make it that, you know, let's just remove this prompt. You are a language translator. Okay, so now we are working with the system, and we are now telling our model that you are something, like you are a language translator. Okay, so now let me just duplicate this line of code. Let me just remove that from here, and I'm going to also change the role to the user. So now let me just provide a user right here, and now I'm going to give it the actual prompt right here. I am telling my model that you are a language translator, and now I'm specifying the actual prompt right here. Okay, so I'm going to just ask it to like translate English to Chinese or something like that, and I'm going to just write an animal. So I only want you to translate the animal word to Chinese language. So now let me just go back, and we cannot run this code by using the code runner. We're going to have to use our own terminal right here. Okay, so now let me just write a ls. So here you can see we have this index.py right here, and now if I want to run that, let me just zoom in a bit. So now if I want to run that, so I'm going to be using like Python and then index.py, and now if I hit enter, so let's just wait for that, and here you can see it's going to give us that response right here. And why is that? Because now we are extracting that specific response content, and we are now storing the inside a message. So that's why we are now getting this message right here. Or we can just comment this line out, and we can just get our entire response. So now let me just print this out and print out the response. There we go, which is going to be the response of this code right here. So now let me just save this file, and now let me run that, and here you can see it's going to give us this entire response right here. Like we have a choices, then we have a finished reason, stop, and we have an index, and we have different kind of things right here. We can also see our model, like we're using GPT 3.5 Turbo, and here you can see we will get our actual data right here. You know, let me just highlight that for you. Here you can see we are now getting our actual response. There we go. Okay, so that's there. Now let me provide that more parameters. So I'm going to just write like I don't know, max tokens. If I just write a max tokens, and it's going to be equals to 2000. By default, I guess it's going to set to 16. I'm not quite sure about that, but I guess maybe by default it's going to be set to like 16. Or you know what, let me just delete this line of code from here, and I'm going to just specify like show me, come on, show me the, or you know what, give me the list of 20 popular PC games. I guess that's gonna be fine. So I'm going to just remove the max content from here. I mean like max token from here. Let me just save my file and go back. And let me just comment this line out. And let me uncomment these line out right here. Okay, so now let me just save my file and run them. So watch what happened. Oh, it did give us all of that funny games right here. So you know what? I'm gonna just ask it to give me, I don't know, maybe 100, or you know what, not 100, or 50 would be fine. So now let me just save them, and now let me just run them, and let's just wait for it. Wow. It is giving us all of that 50 games right here. Come on. I want you to give me all of that. You know what, I'm gonna just change that to like some other model. Okay, so let me just change that to some other model like DaVinci. I guess I'm gonna just change that to DaVinci. Let me just change that to DaVinci. Okay, I guess this is deprecated. I'm not quite sure about that, but now let me just check this out, and let me just rerun my code. Oh, we have to provide some different parameter for that. So now let me just go back, and I'm gonna ask it to like provide, I don't know, maybe 100 games. Let's suppose, I'm quite sure that will not give us 100 games. Let me just run there. Oh my god, it gave me 100 100 games right here. Come on, I was trying to show you that max tokens, but anyways, you get the idea. You know, I'm gonna just set that to 10, and I'm gonna specify like the maximum token we want you to use. Only I don't know, maybe 100 tokens. I'm gonna just set the maximum token to only 100 right here. Okay, so now if I run my code, you know what, and instead of writing a 100, I'm gonna just set that to like, I don't know, maybe 10 would be fine. So now let me just set that to 10, and now let me just write a python index.py. And here you can see it will only give us these two games right here. Why is that? Because we set our maximum token to only 10, and we are now providing this prompt to print only the 10 popular user, or not user but PC games, and we are now setting our maximum tokens to only 10. So that's why we are only getting these two right here. But if I ask it to, I don't know, maybe if I set that to like, I don't know, 50 or something like that, save my file and rerun there, and here you can see it's gonna give us a bit. Okay, so here you can see now it will give us only 8. It will also try to give us 9th, but then it will hit this maximum token size. So that's why it is not able to give us the full response right here. Okay, so that's the maximum token. Now we also have a stop, and for this stop, we are going to be providing a string of number. Now we want our model to stop only on the 5 tokens. So now let me just save my file, and now let me just rerun them. And here you can see our model will stop till the 5th token. We can specify like 10. Let me just provide a 10 right here. And now let me just run my code. And then our model will be stopped from the 10th, which you can see right here. I can also tell it to provide like 20. And you know, let me just rerun that. And here you can see it did complete our job in this case. But now here is the conflict between the maximum tokens and also the stop. It is doing its job totally correctly, but this one isn't. I mean, like both of them are doing their job totally correctly, but in this case we are now telling our model to only use the maximum token of 50, and in this case we are now telling our model to stop when you use 20 tokens. Okay, so that's that. We can also provide like n. Now let me just provide an n, and this n will give us the time. Like you can think about that as a time. Okay, so now let me just provide a 10 right here, and you know what, I'm gonna just set this one to 5, and this one to maybe 200. And n generate a specified number of chat completion choices for each input. So you know what, we already specified 10. Now let me just save that, and now let me just rerun that. So we are going to be using python index.py, and now let me just run that. And here you can see it's going to give us only 4 right here. That's because we're now specifying this stop right here. But if I comment this line out and save my file, and now let me just rerun that, and here you can see it's going to give us only 10 games right here. So yeah, that's the basic parameter which we just learned. And by the way, you can try out all of that parameters by yourself. So you just have to go ahead and go to this chat, and you can learn more about this parameter, and also you can specify there and check it out by yourself. And now I also forgot to show you that how many tokens we've already used. If I go to the usage, let me just go to the usage right here, and I already recorded a lot of videos, so that's why I've spent a lot of tokens. But in your case, that's not going to be the case right here. Okay, here you can see I already used the images model and so on and so forth, and it's going to give us the free credit of only $5, and I spent almost $1. Now let's talk about one of the most important part of this course, which is how we are going to be hiding our API key. Okay, so you will never write your code like this. This is totally public, and whenever you push this code to your GitHub repository, so a lot of people can just copy this API key and they can use that. And now at this point of the course, we did not specify any credit card, but if you did, a lot of people will just steal your credit, and trust me, they will. I guarantee they will. Now to secure this API key, first of all, we have to install a package called the python.env. So we are going to be using pip and then install, then python dash dot, come on, dot env. Let me just zoom in a bit. This is the command which you have to run. I already installed that, but if I hit enter right here, so it's going to tell me that, yeah, we already installed that. But in your case, it's going to take a bit of time to install this package. So that's there. But now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to create a file which will be .env. Let me just zoom in a bit. You have to provide the dot and then env, and once we hit enter, and here we are going to be just writing like something. You can give your API key as the name of like anything that you want, but in my case I'm going to give it the name of like API and then key right here in this version. It's going to be equals to our actual API key. So now let me just go ahead and cut out this API key from here. So now let me just cut this out from here. Let me remove these quotes from here, and now let me paste that right here. Let me just go back, save my file, and that's what you have to do. Now your API key is totally secure. No, it's not. This is how we are going to be creating a .env file. This is how we are going to be creating some sort of a variable, and this is how we are going to be assigning our API key for that variable. Okay, so now how in the world we are going to be using that? And to use that, the first thing which you have to do is that we have to import from the .env package which we just installed a few seconds ago. .env package, there we go. We are going to be only importing the load and then env, which you can see right here. So you just have to write this line of code, and after that you have to import the operating system, or OS for short, and then finally you just have to write this load.env which you just imported right here. Okay, so you just have to execute there, and then you have to use the OS and then their load env. So I'm going to be using like OS, and then we have a method inside there which will be a get env. Let me just write a get env, and now inside there, what do you have to do? You just have to write this variable name right here. So I'm going to copy there, and now let me just place it right here. So now if I save my file, now my API key is totally secure, totally like from A to Z. No, it's still not secure. If you are pushing your code to GitHub repository, it's still not secure, and I'm going to show you how you're going to be making it secure. But now let me just test this out, like whether our API key is working or not. Okay, so if I just write like python index.py, and now if I hit enter right here, let's just wait for that, and here you can see everything is working totally correctly. So which means like we are now accessing this API key from this .env file to this file right here, or actual file. So now the final thing which you have to do is that we have to just create a file which will be .getignore. So this is the kind of file which will ignore all of your file which you are going to be specifying inside this file whenever you are pushing your code to your GitHub repository. So now let me just hit enter right here. So it's going to just create this .getignore file right here. Now the next thing which you have to do is that we just have to specify which kind of file you want to ignore. So we are only interested in ignoring this .env file. Okay, so we are going to be just writing like .env, and now let me just save my file, and this is how you're going to be ignoring your file totally completely. Okay, so now your API key is super secure. You know what, let me just test this out once again. So I'm going to be using index.py, and let's just wait for it. And here you can see everything is working totally correctly. So yeah, this is how you're going to be securing your API key in Python. Welcome to the next section of this course. So in this section, we're going to be focusing on the image generation, which also means that we're going to be using the OpenAI Dall-E model. So now a lot of people will ask me, Hussein, why not use the Dall-E 3? And that's because I want this course to be accessible for every single person out there. So if you don't want to pay, so for that you're going to be using a Dall-E 2. But if you want to pay, so you're going to have to use the Dall-E 3. Okay, so I'm going to show you both of them. I mean, like, you just have to change the model name to Dall-E 3, and there you have it. Okay, so you know what? This is a Dall-E 2, and now let's get into the coding. So let me just go back, and here what I want to do is that I want to remove, you know what, let me just remove every single thing from here, and I guess I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to give it the name of like Dall-E. Okay, so now let me just grab this folder from here, and now let me just replace it right here. And the first thing which I want to do is that I want to create an index.py, and now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to create a .env file, and finally the get ignore. Okay, so you know what, I'm going to have to just write like API and then key, and it's going to be equals to this API key. Let's just copy there, and now let me just place it right here. But if you don't know how to generate this API key, so you know, let me just show you how you're going to be doing there. The first thing which you have to do is that you have to go ahead and go to this OpenAI, and you have to create your account. And once you do, then you have to click on this API key and click on this create new secret and copy there. That's it, baby, that's it. Okay, so that's that. Now let me just ignore my file, which will be the .env file. So now let me just save there. And the first thing which I want to do is that I want to import from the OpenAI. Come on, OpenAI, we are going to be importing the OpenAI. There we go. Let me just zoom in a bit. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to import the .env. Now we are going to be importing from the .env package .env. We're going to be importing the load.env. Okay, so now let me just import the operating system as well. And finally, let me just use my load.env. And now underneath there, we're going to be using our constructor, which we already grabbed from the OpenAI. And now let me provide an API key to them. And we are going to be just using like os.getEnv. Get-env. Okay, so let me just go back and provide my API key right here. So we are going to be providing our API key. And now let me just store it in the client variable. Let's just save our file. And I guess that's every single thing that we need for now. And you know what? Let's start working on the image generation. So now if you want to create an image, so still we are going to be using this client. And now inside this client, we have a property of images right here. A few seconds ago, we used the chat, but now we are going to be using the images. And then I'm going to write a dot. And here you can see we have these few methods right here, like edit, create variation, and we also have a generate right here. So I'm going to just write a generate, and now let me just execute them. And now inside there, we're going to be using a few models, and we're going to be also discussing the parameters, which we are going to be specifying right here. But now in this case, we're going to be using Dall-E and then 2. Okay, so that's that. And now in this case, we're going to be also providing the prompt, not the messages, but the prompt. So I'm going to just write like cat using a computer or something like that. Okay, so that's there. Now finally, let me just store in some sort of a variable like response. It's going to be equals to this client resp. Come on, response. There we go. Now let me just copy there, and now let me just print out this response. So now let me just save my file, and let's just run there. Okay, so I'm going to be using Python index.py, and now let me just run there. It's going to take a bit of time because it is now generating that image for us. And here you can see it's going to give us this image URL right here. And the response is that we have a data, and we can totally grab that, and I'm going to show you that in a few seconds. But now let me just click on this image and open that. And here you can see this is our amazing image based on our prompt, which we are specifying right here, like cat using a computer. And you can specify different kind of prompts if you wanted to. So yeah, that's working. Now let me just hit Control-Z. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I only want to get the image. So I'm going to be writing like image URL, and it's going to be equals to the response, and we're going to be getting the data, and we only want to get the first data, and we want to get the URL from that data. Okay, so now instead of using a response, I'm going to just write like image URL right here. Okay, so now let me just save them, and now let me just rerun them by using Python index.py. And here you can see it's going to give us that one image right here. But if I click on there, let me just open there once again. And let's just wait for it. And here you can see cat staring a computer or PC, whatever you want to call there. But now let me just show you the prompts which we are going to be specifying for these images. Now let's talk about the basic parameters we can specify for the Dall-E 2 and the Dall-E 3. Okay, so we have more than that, but throughout the course we are going to be using these 4. Okay, so the first one we have is a prompt. So it's going to be a text description for a desired image or more images if you wanted to. Okay, so the maximum length will be 1000 character for the Dall-E 2 and 4000 for the Dall-E 3. Do you want your image to be HD, SD, or high quality 4K or something like that? And then the next one we have is a size. So which kind of format of size that you want? So you want 256 by 256, which means like 256 for the width and 256 for the height, or something like that for the Dall-E 2. or we can also provide these one for the Dall-E 3. But throughout the course, we're going to be only focusing on the Dall-E 2. But if you want to use the Dall-E 3, you can totally do that. Now the next one we have is a style. So as the name suggests, which style of image that we want. Do you want a vivid images or a natural images? Okay, so we can also specify there. So you know what, let me just write some code, or you know what, before I write some code, let me just go ahead and show you all of this. So now let me just go ahead and go to the API reference. We can go to the images right here. Now let me just click on this create image, and here you can see the prompt is required, and we can also provide a model, like which kind of model that we want to use. And we have a n, as we already learned there. Then we have a quality, and we have a response format, size, style, and so on and so forth. So you know, let me just write some code, and then you will get to know what I'm talking about. So here, let me just hit enter right here. So here you can see we provide the model of Dall-E 2, and if you already have a Dall-E 3, so you can just change there to the Dall-E 3. There we go. So throughout the course we're going to be using a Dall-E 2 for our images, but you can totally choose like Dall-E 3 if you wanted to. Now the next one we have is a prompt. So I'm asking it to like create CAD using a computer. Okay, so this is my prompt. I can totally change that to like I don't know, CAD using ChatGPT. I guess that's gonna be an amazing prompt. And now the next thing which I want to provide is that which kind of size of image that we want. Okay, so for that we're going to be using a string, and here you can see we have different kind of formats right here. So we have like the width of 1024 by 1024, and we also have this 17 one, and so on and so forth. So if you want to get like a low quality image, so I'm going to just choose this one. Now let me just provide a comma here. We can also tell it like how many that you like, so I'm going to just write like n is equal to 1. We only want to get only 1. So now let me just save my file, and now let me just run that right here. So I'm going to be using Python index.py. Let me just run my code. It's going to take a bit of time because it is now generating the image for us. Okay, so let's just wait for that. And here you can see it's going to give us only one image right here. So if I hold control and click on there, and now let me just open there, and it's going to give us the most awful quality image right here. And what? Oh my god, I thought it's going to be awful quality, but look at it. It's super amazing. Anyways, I really like it. So yeah. Anyways, so what I want to do is that I want to change the size of that. So let's just clear that, and I'm going to just hold control and space. And here you can see we have all of these qualities right here. So this one, I guess this one is only available for the Dall-E 3. So you know what, let me just try this out. So let's just save our file, and at this point it's gonna take a lot of time. Okay, so now let me just hit enter, and yeah, it is only available for the Dall-E 3. So if you have Dall-E 3, so you just have to change that to the Dall-E 3, and it's gonna work for you. So now let me just undo that, and now let's just try out this another one, which will be, I guess, this format right here. So now let me just save my file, and I guess this is also for the Dall-E 2. Yep. This is also for the Dall-E 3. So let's just remove that, and now let me just change that to, I don't know, maybe, I guess I'm gonna just stick with this quality. So now let me just save that, and I'm gonna also change that to like, I don't know, maybe 5 images. And let me just try out like a Python index.py. So it's gonna give us all of their images. Let's wait for that, baby. Let's wait for that. And here you can see it's gonna give us this image. So now let me just click on that and open that. And here you can see we have this rude. Anyway, so you get the idea. So this is how we are going to be working with the Dall-E 2. And you can totally change that to a Dall-E 3 if you wanted to. So yeah, that's it about for the Dall-E. Alright guys, so welcome to the Whisper model. So now let me just remove that, and I'm gonna just create a new folder. I'm gonna give it the name of like WHISPER for the Whisper. And now in this model, we're going to be learning about how we're going to be converting our text to speech, and also how we're going to be converting our speech to text. Okay, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So now let me just make that a bit bigger, and you know what, we're going to have to write all of that stuff a bit fast. So I'm going to just fast forward the video. So alright, so that was the entire setup, and now let's talk about how we are going to be converting our text to speech. So how in the world we are going to be doing that? First of all, we have to write our client, which we already stored right here as a variable. So first of all, we have to access there. We already learned about the chat, we already learned about the images, but now it's time to learn about the audio. Okay, so now let me just write an audio, and then we're going to be writing a speech. And now I am not going to be executing there inside the speech. We're going to be using this create method right here. And this create method will take a few parameters. So I'm going to just specify like a model first of all, and model will be TTS and 1, which means like text come on, text to speech, and we're going to be using the model one, which is totally free. And you know what, we're going to be specifying different kind of parameters. So now let me just explain that. The first thing which you have to specify is the input, then the voice, then the response format and speed. Okay, so the first one we have is the text to generate audio for the maximum length will be that much characters. Now the next one we have is a voice, and the voice to use when generating the audio. Okay, so it support these people like Alloy, Echo, Flab, and these names right here. Okay, now the next one we have the response format, and this is going to be the format in which we want our audio to be. If you want like MP3, we can totally get there, or OPUS or AAC or FLAC or WAV or PCM. Okay, so this is going to be the response format. Now the next one we have is the speed, like how much faster or how much slow you want your voice to be. So you know what, let me just provide a few parameters right here, or you can also learn about that by going into the API reference. You just have to go there, then you have to click on the audio, and then we have a create right here. So we have a model, we have an input, voice and response format, and also the speed. Okay, so you can learn more about that if you wanted to, but now let me just write a code. So this is going to be the model which we are going to be using right now. Then we have a voice. So we have different kind of voices for different kind of peoples right here, like we have a Alloy, Echo, and something like that. So I'm going to just copy this one, and now let me just place that right here. Now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to provide our input, like what you want to convert to the voice. So I'm going to just say like hello world, or you know, instead of writing a hello world, please subscribe to Zen 2.0 YouTube, come on, YouTube channel, come on, CHANNEL, there we go. Okay, so now let me just save my file, and now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to output this audio. Okay, so we are going to be using the with, and then we're going to be using the open, and I'm going to give my file as the name of like output.mp3, and now let me just write the WB as a flag and as f. Now it's going to give us a chunk, so I'm going to be iterating over through their chunks and by the way, I have to store that in the response variable. So now let me just store the response. Okay, RESPONSE. So now we have to iterate over through their chunks. So we are going to be using like for chunk in response, and then we are going to be using this method which is a stream to file, and they show in the VS Code that this method is deprecated, but I'm not quite sure about that. It totally worked for me, but I guess if it didn't work for you, so you can go ahead and go to the documentation and figure out what's wrong. Okay, so now let me just write like what do we call it, let me just write like f.write, and we're going to be just providing our chunk to that. Okay, so now let me just save this file. So we have strem, there we go, strem stream to file, and finger crossed. Now let me just save my file, and we are doing something wrong. So now let me just provide a comma here, and here you can see it's going to give us that line through, but whenever I hover my mouse over to there, so they are suggesting like this method is now deprecated and you should use this one right here, stream response dot method. And I tried that and it didn't work for me and this one did work for me. Maybe in future if they change this method, so you can try out something else, or you can go ahead and go to the documentation and you can read more about that. So you know what, here you can see I don't have any output file right here, but as soon as I run my code, so you know what, let me just write like python index.py, and once I hit enter right here, so it's going to generate that output file for me which you can see right here. So it did generate that output file, and it also gives us this error like you should change that to this method right here, and it will not work for you, and I'm going to show you how. Now I'm going to copy them, and now let me just remove that from here, and now let me play this output right here. So if I play them,
please subscribe to HuxN 2.0 YouTube channel.
Cool. So it did work, but now the next thing which I want to show you is that it gives us an error, but now let me just replace that with this method instead. And here you can see we have this method, so I'm going to just remove that, or you know, let me just cut out this thing, and let me just try out this way. I'm going to save this file, and now let me just delete this output from here, and now let's try it out once again. Okay, so I'm going to also open this sidebar, and let's just write python index.py. Now let me just run that, and it is giving us an error right here, and it is still generating our output right here, but now in this case it is not opening. I don't know why. I guess it didn't work, so that's why. So you know, I'm gonna just undo this code, but if it didn't work for you in the future, you should definitely go ahead and go to the documentation. So now let me just save this file. So this is how we are going to be changing our text to the audio format. So now let me just delete that, and I'm going to just recreate the python and index.py. So now let me just recreate that, it's going to give us that error, so just ignore that. Let me just open that and it will work
Please
totally fine.
subscribe to HughXN.
Yep, it is working totally fine. So yeah, this is how we're going to be converting text to speech, but I'm going to just create a new folder, and this is going to be for the TTS, like text to speech. And now let's talk about speech to text. So speech to text. And now I'm going to just copy every single thing from here, or I'm going to cut that from here. And now let me just place that right here to this text to speech. And I'm going to also copy every single thing from here. Let me just copy that and place that in the speech to text. Now let me just place that right here. I'm going to delete this output file from here. Now let me just go ahead and open my index.py, and everything is working totally correctly. But what I want to do is that in this case, I'm going to be specifying some sort of an audio output, and based on that output, we're going to be getting a transcription, or you can say some sort of a text. Okay, so I'm going to just remove that from here. Let me just save my file, and that's everything that we have to do for now. And I'm going to just generate some sort of audio in the front of you. Here is my audio recording software. I'm using a Windows. So yeah, here you can see I have my voice or sound recorder right here. I'm going to start recording something. Again, Hussein and welcome to YouTube channel. So in this video, we are going to be learning about the Whisper model. And now let me just play that. Oh, it didn't work, so I'm gonna have to delete that. Let me just delete that. Come on. And I'm going to change this one to this microphone. So now let me just change that. And now let me just start recording. Again, Hussein and welcome to YouTube channel. So in this video, we are going to be learning about the Whisper API. And now let me just test this out. Again, Hussein and welcome. Yeah, that's totally working. So I'm gonna have to copy this recording, and I'm gonna have to place that in this folder. Let me just right click on that, and then I'm gonna go to my show in folder. And now here you can see here is my recording right here, and I'm gonna just cut that from here. And let me just go to the desktop, and I'm working with this Whisper. And let me just go ahead and go to this STT, and now let me just place that right here, and now let me make that as a lowercase recording. AK. And here you can see we have that recording right here, which you can see right here, but it is not opening. That's because the format of the file is totally changed. So you know what, let's start working on our recording. So now let's just change our recording to the text. The first thing which you have to do is that we have to get our recording, okay, so or some sort of a voice. So we are going to be using that open method, and let me just provide a path, and we are going to be going into the recording, which you can see right here. So I'm going to just copy this entire thing from here, and now let me just place that right here, and let me just go outside from there, and I'm going to just specify this RB as a flag. And now let me just store that in the audio, come on, audio file is going to be equals to this audio recording right here. Now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to use our recording. So we're going to be using like client.audio, and then the transcription method, we are going to be using that. And now let's just create a transcription for our audio. Okay, so we're going to be providing a model, and the model will be WHISPER Whisper1, and then we have to specify the file. Okay, so we have to provide like where is your audio located. So we are now grabbing that from here. I'm gonna copy that and place it right here. And finally the response format, so we are going to be writing like response format, and we want our audio to be in the text response. And finally let me just store that in some sort of a variable like transcriptions. So we have a transcriptions. Okay, and it's going to be equals to this method, or let me just copy that and place it right here, save my file, and now finally let me just print this out. So we are going to be just printing out this transcription, and now let me use my Python to get that transcription. So index.py, why it's not working? God damn it. Oh, we have to go ahead and go to that folder first of all. So we have to write ls, and then we are going to be going into this stt folder. So now let me just write stt and hit enter. And now if I just write ls, so here you can see we have all of that files. I'm going to be using python index.py and hit enter. So it's going to take a bit of time, and it is not working. I don't know why, but it is not working. So we have a client, and we are using every single thing totally correctly. So we have a client audio. I just check out, and the spelling is incorrect. Let me just remove that from here, and I'm going to just replace that with WHISPER and then -1. So now let me just save this file, and let's just write python index.py, and finger crossed, I guess this time it will work. Hey guys, this is Hussein and welcome to the YouTube channel. Did I specify Hussein? Anyway, so hey guys, Hussein, and welcome to the YouTube channel. So in this video we are going to be learning about the Whisper API. Yep, this is how we're going to be converting our audio file to the actual text. Before we're getting into the prompt engineering, first of all, let me just show you there how you're going to be checking out these documentation. So now let me just go ahead and go to the API reference. You can totally click on the audio, and then you can click on this create transcriptions right here, and it requires the file and then the model, then the language. You can also specify the language that you like. And I was reading this documentation and I just learned a totally new thing. If you want to provide different kind of languages, or if you want to convert your audio to different kind of language, so for that you're going to have to specify this ISO format. So I'm going to click on that, and here you can see we have different kind of languages right here. So I'm going to just search for the Hindi, and here you can see we can specify HI or HIN or HIN, something like that. So let me just try this out. I never tried that, so let's just try that. I'm going to specify HI, and let's just write Python index.py, and finger crossed. I'm not quite sure if this is the actual Hindi, but yeah, this is the response I got in return. I can also specify different kind of languages, like for instance Chinese. Come on, CHINIES. We're gonna have to specify ZH for that. Okay, so let's just write a Z and H. So let's just save our file, let's just run there. And if you guys already know Hindi or Chinese, oh, this is a this is a English. I'm going to specify ZHO or ZHO. Let's just write there, and let me rerun there. And no, it's not working. Let's try out some other language, like, I don't know, Arabic. I'm going to write AR or ARA. I'm going to try the AR first of all, and let's just save our file and run there. And this is, no, this is not Arabic. This is just a split out sentence. I know Arabic, but this isn't an Arabic language. Anyways, you get the idea. So this is how we're going to be working with the Whisper model. So now let me show you how you're going to be using that models using JavaScript. But if you guys don't know what a JavaScript is, so you can totally definitely skip this section. Okay, so using, or what, models in JS. Okay, let's just open this folder right here. Come on, let me open that. The first thing you would need is that you're going to have to install the Node.js. Okay, so I want you to check this. So I'm using Node.js 20. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to just create an index.js file, and we're going to be also creating the .env file to secure our API. And for that, to secure our API, the first thing which we have to do is that we have to install something called the .env package. So I'm going to be using npm I and then .env, and let me just hit enter right here. So here you can see that successfully installed. And now I'm going to be also creating a get ignore file, and let me just ignore the env file. Let's just save our file. And yeah, this is how we're going to be working with that, but we're going to also have to go ahead and go to our package.json file, and let me just change the type to module. Okay, so we're going to be using a module, so let's just save there, and this is how we're going to be using there. The first thing which I want to do is that I want to place my API key right here inside this .env file. And now let me just go ahead and go to the index.js file, and we're going to be importing the .env from the .env. And now let me just configure that. So we're going to be using like .env, and now let me just use the config method on there. And now let's just access our API key. So we are going to be writing like API key, and it's going to be equals to process.env, and then our API key right here. So if I just log that to a console like API key, and let's just save our file and run there, and here you can see it's going to give us my API key right here, which is super amazing. Let me just remove that from here. And now finally, let's just create our function, or asynchronous function. So we're going to be making a request. So let's just write our asynchronous function, and I'm going to give it the name of like fetch data. And for the parameter, we're not going to be specifying anything to that. And let me just provide like a wait, and we're going to be using a fetch method, and you are more than welcome to use Axios or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to be making a request to this API. So let's just copy that, and let me just show you that. So we're going to be making a request to this API, and if you're wondering like where in the world is this API coming from, let me just show you that. Okay, so we just have to click on this chat, and this is that API which we're going to be using. So I'm going to copy them, and let me just place that right in here. There we go. So that's there. Now the next thing which you have to do is that we have to provide our basic stuff like the method which we are going to be using and stuff like that. So method will be set to post, and headers, come on, HERDRS, and headers will be equal. First of all, we have to specify our authorization. So AUTHORIZATION, and we are going to be using the barrier, B-E-A-R-E-R, barrier. And now let me specify my API key right here inside there, provide a comma there, and we are going to be using content type. And now let me provide the content type of application JSON, and this should be in uppercase, yeah. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to provide a comma, and these are just the basic stuff, so I'm going to just hide that from here. And now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to just get the body, so we're going to be just writing like body, and it's going to be equals to JSON stringify. And now let's just provide our model, so we're going to be using the model of GPT 3.5 and then turbo. And now the next thing will be a messages, so we can specify the array of objects. And now let me provide the role, and the role will be user, and we can also specify the content, and the content will be hello world. Or you know what, hello world is not looking that cool. I'm going to give it the prompt of like, give me a list of popular movies. Okay, so I'm going to just specify this prompt. Now underneath that we're going to be getting our data, so I'm going to just write like aware and then response.json. Are we even storing that in the response? Yep, you are not. So now let me just write response, and it's going to be equals to response. So let's just copy that and change that to response.json, and let's just log this out. So we're going to be just getting the data, and finally we have to run or execute our method. Let's just save our file, and I'm going to be using not Python but node index.js. Let's wait for that, and here you can see we got our response right here. So we are getting the ID, object created, model, and also the choices. So now inside these choices we're going to be getting these messages right here. Okay, so how in the order we're going to be doing that? Let's just comment this line out, and I'm going to just write like console.log of data. We're going to be going into the choices, choices, and we're going to be getting only the first choice, and inside that choice we have a message, not a messages, but we only have a message right here. So now let me just save my file, and let's just use the node index.js, and here we are now getting all of that content. So we are now getting like Titanic, Godfather, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is how we are going to be using a chat API. But now let's talk about how in the world we are going to be using, I guess, the Dall-E. And to use them, we're going to have to go ahead and go to the images. And now let me copy this link. Come on, let's just copy that, and let me provide that right in here. This is going to be the API which we're going to be using right now, and let's just remove that from here. We're going to be still using a post method, and for the header, I guess that's going to be totally fine. And now we don't need the model and messages, so now let me just remove that, and let me provide the prompt, and prompt will be equals to a cat staring, come on, staring, there we go, staring at computer or something like that. Let me just provide a comma, and we want them to be 2 times. Let's just provide a size, and size will be 1024, and then times 1024. I guess this is not going to work, but we will change that later. So yeah, we are only interested in that, but you know, let me just remove that from here, and I'm going to also remove that. And let me just log out this entire data. So let's just write the data, save my file, and run that by using node index.py. So here you can see it's going to generate these 2 images for me. So I'm going to just click on there. Let me open there, and I'm going to also click on this one and open this one as well. Okay, so here you can see cat staring computer, cat staring at computer, and yeah, this is another one. But let's suppose if I want maybe 10 of them, I guess it's not going to give me a 10, but I'm going to try it anyway. So let's just save our file, and let me use index dot node index.js. There we go. Yeah, rate limit exceeded for the images per minute. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait for 1 minute. You get the idea. Like, this is how we're going to be using all of their APIs, and so on and so forth. So you know what, let's get into the next section, in which we're going to be learning about the prompt engineering, baby. Welcome to the most exciting part of this course. So in this one, we are going to be learning about something called the prompt engineering. Okay, so what in the world is a prompt engineering, and why you should care about that? So prompt engineering is basically the art of giving instruction to your LLM or large language model in a way that gets you desired response. It's like giving a recipe to a chef, and you provide the ingredient and also the instruction, and the chef, in this case your large language model or ChatGPT, whatever you want to call it, uses that information to create something specific out of it. Okay, so yeah, this is just a basic definition and analogy of a prompt engineering. But now let's talk about the basic structure of your prompt. You don't have to provide all of that, but it will help you, or it will make your prompt amazing. The first one we have is a task, like what you want. Then we have a context, like help the model by providing the context. Then we have the output, desired output you want to get. Examples, provide some sort of example for your model to get better responses. Okay, then we have a tone. So this is going to be basically the tone or style or language of the output you want to get. Okay, so this is just a basic structure of your prompt, and now let's talk about the basic design. So we're going to be providing some sort of an input for our model, and then we are going to be also providing some sort of a data based on that input, and our model will give us the output based on that. In some situation, we can also specify the output by ourselves as well, and based on that, it will give us amazing responses. So you know what, let me just show you example of that. Okay, so here you can see we have an input right here. You don't have to worry about this prompt right here. This prompt includes something called a JavaScript programming language, but if you guys don't know what a JavaScript is, you don't have to worry about that. We are now giving an input like write a program in JavaScript programming language, and the program will receive a number as an input from the user. Now we are providing some sort of a data or information for our model. The program will also need to know the original unit of temperature, Celsius or Fahrenheit, from the user. Now finally, we are also providing the output. We don't have to do that, but in some situation it will be a bit helpful to provide an output for our model. The program should convert the user input temperature to the other units like Fahrenheit or Celsius to Fahrenheit, and display the converted temperature on the screen. So this is just a basic prompt which you want to provide. And by the way, if you don't want to provide your email address, like if you don't want to log in to the ChatGPT, so for that you're gonna have to go ahead and go to this link, which is a chat.openai.com. Okay, so here you can provide your prompts, but that prompts will not be saved right here. Okay, so what I want to do is that I want to provide that specific prompt which I just showed you. I'm now telling my model like this is going to be some sort of an input, this is going to be some sort of a data, and this is how I want my output to be. You don't have to provide the output, the data, and also the input, but in my case I'm doing that because I want to get a bit better response. So now let me just hit enter right now, and here you can see it write that code for me and also this description for me, and I'm not even gonna bother testing the result of this code. So if you want to test the result of this code, you totally can. It is using the older way of JavaScript, like a var result keyword, if and else statement. Nowadays we have a ternary and also the const and let keywords, but here you can see this is amazing prompt, and now we are getting totally completely response. We are also getting the introduction, we are also getting the code, and finally we are also getting the review for our code. So this is how we are going to be providing the input, data, and also the output. Now let's talk about the summarization. So you can also make your model to summarize some sort of a text for you. Okay, so you can specify the desired length, the target audience, and also the key points as well. Okay, so for that you're gonna have to provide some sort of a data, and here is the example. Like here you can see we're going to be using the summarize keyword and then the desired length. And here you can see we are now providing a complicated English. This is the writer English. So now let me just show you that. Okay, so what I want to do is that I'm going to just refresh my browser, and now let me just provide that same prompt right here. So here you can see we are now asking your LLM summarize the following text into 2 or 4 sentences. Okay, so here you can see we have this huge amount of text right here, and we can provide this data right here, but we don't have to. Let me just remove that from here, and I'm going to just hit enter right now, and then it's going to give us the result based on this text right here. Okay, so now let me just refresh that, and this is how we are going to be summarizing some sort of a text by using a ChatGPT. So now let's talk about the zero shot prompt. So a zero shot prompt is a special instruction given to the model that allow it to complete a task without any specific training on that task itself. And it is like giving a LLM a nudge in the right direction. So which also means that we are not training our model on any data whatsoever. So we are just giving it some sort of a task, and we are now leaving that task on our LLM to do it by itself. Like how that's gonna look like, this is how it's gonna look like. So here you can see I have this prompt right here, and I am not training my model on any data whatsoever. The year is 2077 and robot have taken over and stuff like that. So you know what, let me just try this out, and then you'll get to know what I'm talking about. And here you can see I am not training my model on any data, and I'm asking it to provide some sort of a news headline or article with the style of the onion. So now let me just hit enter right now, and it's gonna just give us this headline right here, which is super amazing. But this is not the best way. So what is the best way? The best way is a few short prompts. So what do I mean by a few short? A few short prompt is a technique used to guide or train our model towards a specific kind of response. It works by providing the model with a few examples of input and the desired output, something which we already learned, but I'm going to also show you that in a few seconds right now. This helps the LLM understand the format and the style of the response you are looking for. So here you can see we are going to be training our model by first of all providing some sort of an input and output, then again input and also output, and finally we're going to be telling our model to write something based on this data. So you know what, let me just write this code. Not a code, but you know what, let me just write this prompt. Okay, so let me just place it right here. So here you can see I'm providing some sort of an input and also the output. Then once again we have the input and also once again output. Then finally I'm asking my model, like, now it's your turn, write something which I'm specifying right here, just like this input and output which I just give you right here. Okay, so now let me just hit enter, and then it's going to give us output just like these responses which you can see right here. So yeah, if you want to pause the video and read through there, you can totally do that, but I'm not planning to because it's going to just waste a lot of your time. Now let's talk about 6 strategies for getting better results. So these stuff are now coming from the OpenAI website, okay, which I'm about to show you. So number 1, provide as much detail as you can. So how that's going to look like, this is how it's going to look like. So for the worst part, we can just ask our model, like, how do I add numbers in Excel? For the better part, we can provide this entire prompt. Once again, we have a worst part, like write a code to calculate the Fibonacci sequence, and you don't have to worry about what a Fibonacci sequence is. And we can also ask our model, like, summarize the meeting notes, and that's not the better way. The better ways are these, which you can see right here. And I'm not going to even bother reading through all of them because it's going to just waste a lot of your time. So now let me just try this out. The first thing which I want to do is that I'm going to just ask it, like, how do I add numbers in Excel? So now let me just hit enter, and it's going to tell me that how can I add numbers in Excel. Okay, so that's a pretty good response, which you can see right here. So you know what, let me just add this prompt instead. How do I add up a row of dollar amount in Excel? That's the first question, and I want to do it automatically for the whole sheet of rows with all of the total ending up with the right column called total. So now let me just hit enter and watch what happened. Now at this point, it's going to give me every single thing in a very great detail. So instead of just asking it, like, how do I add numbers in Excel, this is going to be a better prompt, and based on a better prompt, it's going to give you a better response, which you can see right here. I am not going to waste your time by reading through all of that stuff, but here you can see the length, like yeah, here we have like equal to sign in the sum. Now in this case, it's going to tell us exactly what we have to do. It's going to give us a lot of information, and we can even ask it a bit more if you wanted to, but yeah, this is going to be the first one. And now you know what, let me just try out something else. So now let me just refresh there. I'm going to just ask it to write a code to calculate the Fibonacci sequence. So now let me just hit enter. Fibonacci series or Fibonacci sequence, whatever you want to call that. And here you can see it's going to just give us that code right here, and also this description. But now let me just give it this prompt, like, write a TypeScript function to efficiently calculate the Fibonacci sequence, comment the code library to explain what each piece does and why it's written that way. So now let me just hit enter right now. So here you can see it's going to give us a TypeScript code. Also it's going to show us why this thing works that way. Okay, so let's just wait for that. And here is the explanation part right here. Okay, so in this part, it did a pretty good job. I'm not gonna say like this is the worst part. It did a pretty good job, and this is a Python code, by the way. And now we are asking it to provide a TypeScript code or a JavaScript code, and here you can see it will also give us that explanation. So yeah, this is how we are going to be providing more information to our model. Strategy number 2, ask the model to pretend to be someone. Okay, so here you can see we are going to be just asking it that you are something, and we want you to do something, like you are a language translator and I want you to translate like animal from English to Chinese or something like that. So in this case, when I ask you for help to write something, you will reply with a document that contains at least one joke or playful comment in every paragraph. Okay, so then we are providing that something is going to give us at least the joke and playful comment. So you know what, let me just refresh them. And now let me provide that same prompt right here. Okay, so we are now first of all telling our model that you are someone or something, and then we want you to do something based on that specific role do something. Okay, so now let me just hit enter right here. We are going to be searching for some sort of a jog, and now let me just ask my model like where is the jog, and here you can see it gives us all of that result right here. I'm not going to even bother reading through all of that, but now let me just ask my model like where is the jog. Now show me the jog that you've made. So now let me just hit enter, and it's going to tell me that jog. So why did the bold go to school? Because it wanted to be a little bold, clever. Yeah, cool. So anyways, you get the idea. Like, we can ask our model to pretend to be someone. Strategy number 3. So you can also use delimiters like triple quotes or a markdown language like hashes and something like that. So how that's gonna look like? It's gonna look something like this. Summarize the text delimited by triple quotes, and here you're going to be specifying some sort of a text. So your model will not focus on anything else, but it will only focus on that specific text which is delimited by double quotes. Okay, so you know what, let me just show you the example of that. Let's just refresh there, and now let me just provide this prompt right here. So here you can see we're now asking our model to summarize the following text which is now written in the triple quotes. Okay, so here you can see we have that same text right here. So our model will not focus on anything else. It will only focus on this text which we specified inside these triple quotes. So now let me just hit enter, and it's going to give us a response based on this text right here. So we can use these triple quotes, or we can just write a pound symbols if you wanted to. So yeah, let me just copy there, and it's going to give us that same response right here. But instead of writing a triple quotes, we're going to be just writing like this one pound symbol. So now let me just hit enter right here. So now in this case, it's going to give us that same response. So yeah, this is how we're going to be using delimiters. Strategy number 4, specify the steps required to complete a task. So we can also specify different kind of steps for our model to be trained on, and based on that training data, it's going to give us some sort of response. So like, use the following step-by-step instruction to respond to the user input. Step number 1, the user will provide you with text in triple quotes. Summarize that text in one sentence with a prefix that says summary. And step 2, translate the summary from step 1 into Spanish with the prefix says translation. So you know what, this is how we are going to be telling our model that you have to do something, and then we are going to be providing some sort of a response or some sort of data. It's going to first of all summarize our text, and then it's going to translate that text right here to the Spanish. Okay, so let me just refresh there. Here is that same response which you can see right here, and we are now providing a step 1, then the step 2, and then finally we are now providing our data right here. So now let me just hit enter. So it's going to give us response based on this. So here you can see first of all it's going to give us the summary, and this is the summary, and then finally it's going to give us the translation. I'm not a Spanish speaker, but it is what it is right here. Okay, so yeah, this is how we are going to be providing a step-by-step instruction for our model. Strategy number 5, so provide examples if you can. Here you can see this is how we're going to be providing our prompt like system, answer in the consistent style, user, teach me about the patient, and we are now teaching our model that you are going to be also giving us response just like this one which you can see right here. Then we are going to be asking our model that teach me about the ocean, and it's going to give us a response just like this. So you know what, let me just show you there. Let's just refresh there, and here is that same response right here. So answer in the consistent style, and then teach me about the patient. And this is how you're going to be teaching me about the patients, and now I want you to teach me about the ocean. Okay, so now let me just hit enter, and here you can see the response is just like this text right here. A writer style English. This is how we can specify example for our model, and based on that specific model is going to give us responses based on that. So the final strategy we have is that provide references if you can. Okay, so here you can see I have this example like, use the provided article delimited by triple quotes to answer a question. If the answer cannot be found in the articles, write I could not find the answer. This is how we are going to be inserting our article, and based on this specific article we are going to be asking some sort of a questions. So how that's going to look like? This is how it's going to look like. So the first thing which I want to do is that I want to provide this prompt right here, and then we are going to be specifying in triple quotes, we are going to be specifying our actual data. So here you can see I am now inside a video games Wikipedia page, and I'm going to copy a lot of text from there. So I'm going to just copy there, and now let me just place that right here inside these quotes, and now underneath there let me just ask a question. When was the first video game prototype made? So now let me just hit enter, and the first video game prototype was made in 1950s and 1960s, which are example extension of electronic games. So you know what, let me just copy that and let me just place it right here. And here you can see we have 1950s and 1960s. So this is how we are going to be providing our example references, and based on this reference or data, it's going to give us output. So yeah, that was a lot to take in. That was a huge course. So if you enjoyed this course, so feel free to subscribe to this channel. Yeah, I just want to say, like, take care, man, and enjoy your life. This is a life you're going to be learning a lot of stuff throughout your life, and I don't even know how to end this video, but I just want you to know that I love you. And if you have any other courses or suggestions about any other courses or something like that, so feel free to drop that in the comment below, and I'm gonna do my best to make a separate courses on there.